welcome. And on behalf of the Technology Association of Georgia and the Corporate Development Society, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us. My name is Ned Hill. I am a managing director with Signature Bank of New York's Venture Banking Group, meaning I get to work with great entrepreneurs like Tim and Johnson and great companies like Greenlight, working in partnership with them and their investors to finance the growth of their companies and as I often say, finance the growth of their dreams. I'm also this year's chair of TAG's Corp Dev Society. And if you aren't familiar with TAG, it's Technology Association of Georgia. It's a great organization to be a part of if you are in the technology arena within the state of Georgia. And specifically, our society brings together investors, entrepreneurs, and leaders in corporate development for terrific events and networking opportunities. So to date, for instance, we've hosted an event where we brought venture investors together to provide a retrospective on 2020, which was quite an interesting retrospective, as you might imagine, as well as prognosticating a bit on 2021. We hosted a panel on company culture considerations when you're doing M&A. And our third event of the year is this Fireside Chat with Tim and Johnson from Greenlight. We do have our upcoming events include our signature CXO event on June 16th, and I'll do a reminder at the end, but do mark your calendars. And it's going to feature the C-suite from another fantastic Atlanta company, LeaseQuery. In September, we're hosting an in-person event on cybersecurity and the privacy considerations around mergers and acquisitions. And in October, we have our final two events planned. One is on the business and the technology of cannabis, which should be interesting. And we're actually going to host that one in person, hopefully at a local brewery. And then our last event, or planned event, at least at this point, is on healthcare equity from a corp dev perspective. So it's one where we're really featuring kind of underrepresented and investors, entrepreneurs, and the community at large, and looking at that from a healthcare equity perspective. So we really do encourage you to join us for all of these terrific events and panels. We think that they'll be terrific. So, but with that, let's get started with today's event. And to do that, I'd like to introduce today's moderator, Christy Brown, who is CEO of Launchpad 2X, and she's also vice chair of the Corp Dev Society this year. So, Christy, I'll kick it off to you, and thank you for leading the conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely delighted to be here on what otherwise would be a really, really busy entry into summer. And so I'm thrilled that Johnson and Tim can be here with us today to talk about their rising, not only for Atlanta, but across the fintech space. So with that, eager thanks on behalf of our board and TAG overall. I would like to just kick off and set the stage for who Greenlight is and what the organization has become. And then we're going to lead into a very great conversation with both these extraordinary co-founders. So just to set the stage, Greenlight began in 2014, and Johnson and Tim are going to share the story probably a little better than I can, but they were on a mission to really drive parents to raise financially smart kids. Completing this fintech sector around Atlanta, Greenlight began with its core focus of financial literacy aimed at children. It started with a debit card and an app for those kids and has since built a comprehensive money management platform for families that teaches financial responsibility, which we all need, but certainly at this age, I think it helps with rising knowledge across this sector. So that I just want to take just a few minutes and let Tim and Johnson both introduce themselves. I think that resonates much more accurately than me explaining their story. But with that, Tim, can we just take a few minutes and have you do a quick introduction and bio?
Sure. I'm Tim Sheehan, co-founder and CEO of Greenlight. Let's see, we'll probably get into how we met and all that stuff in the Q&A, but let's see. I started my career as an engineer, moved over to product management, and then from product management to general management. Let's see, the three big hits that I was lucky enough to work on ESPN.com, E-Trade, and Yahoo Finance. Bunch of other stuff mixed in there. Done some B2B in addition to B2C. And just would like to point out that Johnson is older than me. Over to you, Johnson.
I was holding back.
Go ahead.
Was it the typewriter that you were working on originally, Tim? I can't remember which product management role, but it was
the Commodore 64 back then. But yeah, so yeah, I lived in Seattle, Bay Area. I grew up in the DC area, in Northern Virginia, and have been here in Atlanta since 2007.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jonathan, you want to jump in?
Sure.
If I would have known you were older, I would have started.
And just so you know, our PR team, I think, is watching this call, and they are on the edge of their seats, terrified about putting us together in a public setting. That's like the worst idea.
It is pretty dangerous. I mean, if I were them, I would have never done it. Just you're crazy.
So grew up in Atlanta, went to Georgia Tech, started my first company there. Kind of did the startup thing like pretty much my whole career. I had an investment banker tell me a couple of days ago, he said, "Congratulations, you've never had a real job." And I said, yeah, I guess that's fair and that's true. But I guess the most fun thing I did before Greenlight was co-found the Atlanta Tech Village with David Cummings. And Christy, you and I met in EO and the Entrepreneurs Organization. And I loved doing the Tech Village because it was like this physical community for entrepreneurs to be together, kind of like we know how important peer sharing and peer relationships are when you're building companies. So that was really fun. And I got to meet Tim when he was in the EIR down at ATDC. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess, on Greenlight.
Awesome. Thanks for the mention about ATV as well. We know it well as ATDC. And I saw John Avery pop in. So kudos to bringing great entrepreneurs and peer-to-peer thinking together here in Atlanta. It's magnificent, those two areas. Can we talk just briefly, and Tim, you led into this, but how did you two come together? Was it simply the ATDC connection? How did you find match between yourselves?
Yeah, I was first lucky to find ATDC. I had been thinking that I guess I was wondering if I needed to move back to California to do a startup. And then through a crazy combination of events, I found out about ATDC because I had been living in the area for a few years, but I hadn't come across it, hadn't heard of it. And so then one thing led to another, started to work there as an entrepreneur in residence, and it was fantastic, really enjoyed that. And I felt really at home finding entrepreneurs and everybody kind of around the startup ecosystem there. So that really was a big change for me because it made me feel like building a company here, I really could do it. And then, a common friend introduced Johnson and I, and we just kind of hit it off. And what was interesting is I had been thinking and telling some family and friends that, if I could find someone who was good at the things that I was weak at, that would be a really awesome combination. And I had said that for a while, but hadn't really met anyone that kind of embodied that. But Johnson and I just hit it off, and as we got to know each other, we were just super complimentary. It's hard to actually describe, but if you asked me, like, what's the one thing that made Greenlight successful, I would say it's the partnership that we have. we just it's a fantastic combo of skills, because we can divide and conquer, and you know, things that he's strong at, he'll handle. Things that I'm strong at, I'll handle. So it kind of makes the leadership of the company quite strong, because there's hardly any weaknesses, because you're making up for them with each other. But yeah, so we just kind of hit it off. I told him what I was thinking about. I was thinking about a few different things. He was thinking about starting a fund to invest in startups. And when I mentioned Greenlight, I have 4 kids and he has 3 kids. He called me back, like, I think it was the next day, and he was just like, I can't stop thinking about that Greenlight thing you mentioned. He's like, that's a real problem. Like there's a real problem there. So yeah, that's how it started. And we just started spending a ton of time together. And kind of, you know, the snowball started to roll.
Johnson, did you want to add anything about the initial meetings and conversations?
No, it's exactly right. Actually, I think thinking back, like, I don't think we even realized it at the time, like how it was going to become kind of a superpower. And I was talking to another entrepreneur about his co-founder. He was asking me about co-founders, and like I was thinking, like, one of the reasons it works so well and is so fun to do is that, like, the things that give me energy, I get to go like all the way in on, and the things that give Tim energy, and you don't need stuck in the crap that we don't like doing, not like doing, but like gives us energy. Like, for example, details drive me crazy. And to build a great consumer product, you have to go to the details. And so Tim can sit there and single thread for like 3 weeks on, should we do per child pricing or per family pricing? And I'm like, dude, just make a decision. But he will just go until it's like perfect. And then, you know, it just works really well together because we're both single threaded and multi-threaded on all things at all times.
That's really complimentary to hear for founders, because it doesn't always work out that way. And I'm sure we could all share war stories of good and bad founding relationships. So it's really nice to hear that you all came together in such a magnificent way. When we talk about that initial idea, Tim, something just caught me off guard. Was Greenlight already the name that you had developed prior to you and Johnson coming together, or was that even there yet? The name?
Yeah, it was. There were a few co-founders in the very beginning, and I think it was pretty early on that we settled on Greenlight, and I actually can't even remember how we were referring to it before that. But it was pretty.
It's always Greenlight.
It was pretty early on.
The concept was Greenlight. The product, you know, it just fit. It was just such a natural name.
Yeah, I think it was pretty early on that we settled on it.
Then when we think about the idea, and we have lots of founders and investors and those types that are joining to listen to you all today, that early stage idea, what drove that problem for you? Was it that you each had young children and this was a problem that you were experiencing as parents? Yeah,
we there was a little like small team of us, and that, you know, essentially did the research to kind of find out if the problem really existed in the market. This was what I would essentially teach at ATDC every day, really, with every entrepreneur that I would meet, which was, don't get hung up on your idea or your solution. Put your focus into finding out, you know, as if you're an investigative journalist or a detective, try to find out, you know, objectively whether the problem exists in the market, you know. So you're seeking facts, you're seeking, you know, the truth. And so although the initial idea, you know, we all were experiencing, all the whole small team of us who had kids, you know, had experienced the problem. the research that we did is what really gave us the confidence that this was actually a big problem in the market, and that people were struggling to solve it. So what you want to see is that the problem exists in the market, it's a big problem, and that it's a problem that's so painful people are trying to suboptimally solve it themselves. Because if they're not trying to solve it themselves, then is it really that painful? Can they kind of live with it? And the death of a startup is nice to have. A company must be a must-have to actually grow from nothing into something big. And so, meaning that people must solve the problem. They feel that they must solve it. And so when we started to see that, 9 out of 10 parents that we spoke to, and we just did random interviews with parents, and then eventually a survey nationwide, it just became very clear that the problem was real. The things you look for are like, you ask open-ended questions, and you see if the target market, in this case, the parents, would proactively raise up the problem. Would they bring up the problem? So you don't want to bring up the problem. You don't want to bring up the solution. You just want to ask open-ended questions like, do you have kids? Oh, okay, you do. Do you ever need to give them money? Oh, you do. And then the key question, and really the last question you ask is, or we did, was, do you ever have any problems with that? And you see what they say. And if they unprompted bring up the fact that they're not carrying cash because they're making their purchases with credit cards and debit cards, and so but they still have all these different circumstances where they need to be able to give their kids money, and so you when they, in an unprompted way, bring up the problem you are trying to find out if it exists in the market, that's a really good sign. That means that the problem does exist, and it's painful enough or prominent enough that they're raising the topic, they're bringing it up. That's a really good sign that a problem exists in the market, and that it's painful. And then you can explore, like, so are you doing anything to solve it? And you see what they tell you there. You try to probe whether they, how hard they're working to solve the problem, that kind of stuff. But yeah, we basically did a lot of market research to find out if the problem existed in the market, how big of a problem it was, how big was the market opportunity. We spent a ton of time on that side of it, which is why I think it has gone so well. Is we essentially identified something that was a problem in the market but wasn't being addressed, and it just became a bigger and bigger issue as cash usage continued to decline, and which was one kind of macro trend that benefited us. Another big macro trend that benefited us was the adoption of smartphones. So kind of we had those as like tidal waves, at our back sweeping us along. But we did kind of see them coming. So we were smart enough to kind of, get in our boat and get in front of them. And then they just pushed us along. And I think we got the product right. And we got our marketing right.
Well, and then,
yeah, go ahead.
And then what happened, like once we solved the problem, right? Like parents were pulling us into the market was pulling that because of that problem. But then it got crazy exciting when we listened to them, because we were always on Facebook talking to our customers and seeing how they were sharing it. And they were saying things like, Greenlight is how I teach my kids about money. And so once we were in market solving that problem, this other aspect started to like reveal it to us, which is parents actually don't know how to teach their kids how to budget, how to save for unexpected expenses, the fact that you should earn money, that it doesn't grow on trees. And so we were like, one of your questions, I'm not going to jump ahead, Christy, but I saw your question about what is the biggest surprise. And like the purity of the mission, because of the way the mission happened. I mean, like you hear what he's saying, like everything was about solving the problem of parents giving their kids money. But if you look at the company today, everything is about the mission and helping parents teach their kids about money. It's just such a bigger global, like generational mission at this point. And it's so pure. I mean, it's like there was no corporate retreats where we did shrooms or anything like you're supposed to do to come up with mission statements. It was just there. Like the parents just said it to us. And now it gives us a North Star for recruiting, for fundraising, for product roadmap. It is like family finance is a category that has a good purpose and a big business behind it too.
Absolutely. And so Johnson, you admitted earlier that the details kind of drive you crazy, but Tim is so amazing at going in depth. And I was listening to Tim explain a lot of what I would term as, early kind of mom test theory or customer discovery. So what were some of the early challenges with that? I mean, you had this natural growth through your audience, but I would love to hear some of the challenges with you both bringing those things together and your market adoption occurring at the same time.
Yeah, I would say the earliest challenge it was getting launched. It was, we weren't going to compromise. And again, credit to Tim, like we weren't going to take that you can do fintech in a box and you can go pay somebody like Marqeta to give you a prepaid card and be in market very quickly. But to Tim's credit, he said, you'll thank me later, but we're going to unbundle this and it's going to be a lot more work. And we're going to have a bank deal, a processor deal, a loading deal, an ACH. Like we had all these deals we had to put together. So the hardest part was begging for money for 2 years, saying, for 2 years, we're 30 days from launch. Like we were always almost able to launch, but the bank deals were hard. The processor, it was just really, really hard. And we weren't going to compromise, right? We weren't going to just take the pricing because we had no leverage. Tim still acted and thought he was at Yahoo and acted like that. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, we need a deal. Just say yes. And he was like, no, we don't pay setup fees. Like, what are you talking about? We don't pay setup fees. Pay whatever they're asking. We got to be launched. So that was really, really hard. And I won't say that it got easier when we launched, but it was not as painful when there's no product in market.
Well, that's a great segue too. And talking about fundraising in 2014, did you have investors at that time? Because you just kind of mentioned that you were telling people we're going to get there, we're going to launch, but you're a couple years out. Were you bootstrapping? What was kind of the financial?
Yeah, it was us. It was us and angel investors, a lot of angel investors. And some of them, we kept going back for more to the same ones. And, there were a couple who said yes every time we called. They said, I invested a year ago, I'll invest again. Like, don't even have to hesitate. And I'm like, the happiest part of my day now is to go look at like the value of those investments in the company, because that's what it's all about. And that's what's going to build like the Atlanta community of angel investors too. You have to have people who have put the 500K in, take risk, it could have gone to zero, but now it's worth $30 million. That's the kind of return that will get an ecosystem really, really going. But it was hard.
Tim,
Yeah, it was. He's making me remember. We both went without salaries, I think, for 2 years, and then we also put our own money into the company too to pay engineers and others, pay for servers, things like that. And then those angel investors, I mean, they came in, some of them came in before we even had the product ready. And, I think I think they believed in us. I think they believed we could do it. And so we're super happy that, we were able to, kind of make it a successful outcome for them, because they took a ton of risk on us, and so it makes us feel really, really pretty great that we are rewarding them for that massive risk that they took. And yeah, it's, I mean, I don't have to tell anybody on this call who's tried to build something, or, you know, tried to start something. It's really tough. It's really tough, because, you know, how do you get the money to do it? You know, how do you do it when you have a job, and, you know, you need, and that income from the job is, you know, helping pay the bills. It's quite a difficult thing to pull off in those very, very early days, where you don't have enough to attract, you know, significant investing from a VC or somebody like that. But if you can find some angel investors to help you get started, that can usually make the difference. And it definitely made the difference for us.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think from an investment lens, we love that grittiness of no salaries for 2 years on co-founders. It makes us thrilled for some crazy reason. But thanks for sharing the pain and the glory. And let's talk about your most current raise, because that's really what Atlanta has gotten most excited about, is you've raised nearly $500 million in the last 12 months or so. So how does that feel to you both, that now there's this risk reward path that you're on versus just all risk?
Well, Johnson, really, I have to give him most of the credit on the fundraising. It's something that he is fantastic at, that I am not strong at. And so that's like actually a great example of, you know, where one of us takes the clear lead, and he did. And it's you know, to build a successful company, like, so many things have to go right. And you know, I don't know, you have to get the product right. Yeah, you know, you got to get the product market fit right, and you have to execute well on the marketing side to drive, you know, and sales, depending on if it's a B2B or B2C company. But the other component, and not a lot of people, I think, talk enough about it, is, and just as important, is the funding. Without the funding, you've got maybe a great car, but it's not going anywhere. There's no gas in it. And so the funding is huge. But so I'll let Johnson talk about that. But I would give him the credit for why we've been able to raise as much as we've raised, and it's been, you know, it's been the lifeblood. Like, you know, you can, as I said, have the best product in the world, the best team in the world, the best marketing and sales. But if you don't have the funding to carry you across all those months and sometimes years of where you're not generating profits yet, but your growth is exceptional, it's really those investors who give you the money, invest the money to allow you to do that. Because it takes time. It takes time to get big enough to the point where you are then generating the profits. But yeah, I'll let Johnson talk about some of the.
Yeah, that's right. But it's the Gardner Gerard from TTV described it. He called it. He kind of labeled it in this really clear way, where we built the best product to start with, then we cracked marketing, then we just were able to use that to raise more money than any competitor. We put that money back into more product, better marketing, raise more money again. And it's like this 3-step kind of ladder that we're going up, where we are just more product, more marketing. And each one is equally important, because we could have built the best product and had the best funding, but not figured out distribution. And we could have sat there with a bunch of money and no customers. We could have screwed up the product and gotten a bunch of customers that immediately canceled, right? So you can do any two of the three, but it's worked because we've been lucky enough to have the best product, the best marketing team, the best partnerships, and then the cash to stay ahead of it. So yeah, it's really
that's
fun.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's a cycle. You know, you build the best product, you get the marketing right, and sales if it's B2B, and then you raise the money, and then you repeat that cycle. Put the money into the product, into the marketing, raise more money, put the money into the product.
And you have to be able to measure it to make that work. You have to have a handle on gross margins and your data and your unit economics and your CAC and your churn, and like all of those things only work if you really, really can finely tune the business and measure each little part of the company.
That's right. Because
that's what I'm most proud of. I'm so proud of, like, we have super detailed again, but we have measurement for everything about the business, everything parents do with the app, kids do, where they spend, how they load, what time of day, when, all the behavior. It just helps you build the better product. And it's so cool to watch it work.
Yeah, it's funny. If you want to know what will convince an investor, data, facts, not what Tim says, not what Johnson says, data. Facts. That's why people invested, was they loved the unit economics, and we were able to show them. We could say, here's what we're making in revenue, here are our COGS, here's the gross profit, here's what our CAC is, here's what our churn is, and they look, they study that data. That's what they make their mind up on, is the data. And when they see something they like, they will invest. They definitely want to believe in the leaders of the company, the founders or whoever's there, that they can do this, that they have the skills necessary to lead the company. But the data is crucial to convincing them to actually put their money at stake, put their money at risk.
And so let's dive in just briefly, because Johnson, you jumped ahead a little bit earlier, but let's talk about scaling just briefly. When we talk about what surprised you most about Greenlight, you alluded to some of the customers just really giving you direction through Facebook, but what's been the positive and negative?
For me,
you, Tim, maybe.
I'm going to start because it is the power of a mission that is real and that does good. And like the surprise is the power in everything. In recruiting, it's a huge deal. Like our onboarding, our new hire orientation groups, it is amazing to ask people, why did you join Greenlight? They always say, because of the mission. Like, it is unbelievable. It's like they're joining like a nonprofit, it's just that's such a powerful thing for us. And then when we go into partnership deals, we have a big public partnership with Chase, and why did Chase choose to work with Greenlight? We were just so focused on this mission of helping families that it became an advantage for us. That's been a great surprise.
Tim, any thoughts
on the biggest surprise?
Yeah.
Is that gosh, there have been so many surprises. Let's see. Yeah, I think what Johnson said is definitely a big one. I think how fast it all happened. Well, maybe that's not the right way to say it, because it didn't happen like overnight. Right. It didn't happen fast. Maybe how big it's gotten, how fast it got so big. I think it's funny because we'll get a lot of the credit, but honestly, the reason Greenlight is so great today is the team we've hired. Like, we have just an amazing group of people at Greenlight, and now nobody go out there and target our team. But although they're already being targeted, but we have a fantastic team, and I think that's definitely our secret weapon. But I think maybe the biggest surprise is how big Greenlight, how big we got in a short period of time. What feels like a short period of time.
So you both made reference to talent, and that was one of the questions John Avery actually sent over a moment ago, was talking about really the essential element of your growth through talent acquisition and trying to really cobble together that talent and getting that culture and persona and all those pieces to fit together. What's really your Greenlight mantra, so to speak, for your culture? What's propelling that team to stick together and come over to Greenlight? Either one of you want to start with that?
Go ahead.
There's a lot. I have a potpourri of answer. It's really hard to work at Greenlight, and we're very upfront with that in recruiting, that it's not an easy place to work. Like we drive hard. We work very, very, very hard, and we don't like to compromise on things. Like, you can have it fast or cheap or great. Like, we want it all. we don't think it's okay to compromise on anything. And so we say it's really, really hard to work here, but we also have a lot of fun doing it. I think because we have so much fun together, we are allowed to push each other harder, because we push each other harder, even though it makes it harder to get deals done when we're, both switching up who's good cop and bad cop, but they end up being better. And then we can joke about it and it's fun. And so I don't know, we just have this interesting combination of like jovial, but very intense, like very, very intense. So, and then again, it comes back to the mission. Like when you have somebody, who's on the fence. Also, I will say Atlanta, now we're not forcing all reload. We're doing a little bit of remote hiring now, but before COVID, we had to sell Atlanta. Like we recruited our CMO from Facebook, we recruited marketing out of Hulu and FanDuel and Magic Leap, and all these people, we had to move to Atlanta, and we took them to dinner and hired realtors to drive them around town and show them the schools and their kids. And that was really important. And I think an advantage, and it's like, thank God we're not in the Bay Area now, because it's kind of almost easier, I think, for us because we're in Atlanta.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think, there's a few core values that like we've distilled it down to in terms of what do we value the most. And you'll have to help me, Johnson, but make sure I don't screw any of these up. But make your mark is one of them. Yeah. Meaning kind of, yeah, I guess that's pretty obvious. Be bold is another. I think it's.
This is going to be good.
What's that?
This is going to be good. You have to like buy me a steak dinner if you don't know the third one.
No, the bring your whole self, like
win together is
yeah,
the summary of
yeah.
it. Win together.
Win together, where basically everybody brings their unique selves to work, like don't hide your uniqueness, bring it, because that's something that makes you special. And there's a fourth one.
Live the mission.
Live the mission. That's it. And I think that kind of captures it. When we first started the company, I think the three we wrote on the whiteboard were, in terms of the things we valued, were intelligence, hard work, and fun.
Yeah.
I think those were the three we wrote down, because we wanted to work with people who were smart, hardworking, and fun, and so that's where we kind of started, and so we evolved it into those four values that I mentioned. But actually, I think maybe this is what John was getting at. I think our culture is fantastic, and it's a key reason I think we're attracting the talent that we attract and that we're able to retain, because it's fun to work at Greenlight. It's also fun to work at a place that's succeeding. That obviously helps a lot. But I think a lot of people, especially young people, they're not just looking to just get a job. They want to work someplace where they feel, all that time and effort that they're going to put in, they want it to mean something. They want it to have done something in the world that was good. And so it's the mission is a big deal. I mean, it is, it's, as Johnson said, it's our North Star. Like, that's the thing we're all focused on. It's, I think, why many of us came and stayed, and probably will remain the case.
So I'm going to jump ahead just to an audience question because it ties right into this. So Helly, thanks for sending this over. Tim and Johnson, when you refer to your team being your secret weapon, what are traits or qualities that you prioritize in your hiring process? Are there attributes you can share?
I think it still goes back to what he just said. Like, it's intelligence and hardworking and a little bit of fun. We also now, our people team is just amazing. And we've got full-time recruiters now. We've got an awesome head of people, and I'm not saying his name because then everybody's going to go find him on LinkedIn and offer him a job. So don't even think about it. But we have like a values part of the interview where it's like non-functional interview. So it's like if you're an engineer, it might be somebody from customer service interviewing an engineer on values fit. And so there's really neat things that we're doing to kind of institutionalize, I think, what we just did on our own in the early days. And like, how do you scale that? We went into COVID with 90 people in the office, and today we're just under 300. So we've hired 2/3 of the company in the pandemic, and we have never met in face. They're all 2D people, basically, is what I say. Like, we don't know how tall anybody is. So to do that, remote for one, and then to do it well and get great people, I think was really, really hard. And that's not credit to us. That's credit to our people team and all the recruiters and everybody working for us, working on that effort to grow the business.
And one other question that I want to attack while we're here, Darshan, thanks for sending this over. Do you partner with other organizations like nonprofits to help with this education, or those that cannot afford the monthly fee to create the learning?
We do. We're super proud of this. And this, I think, is going to become a really big part of the business as we scale it out. We have it in pilot right now. It's a program the name currently is Greenlight Legacy. And I think there's a test going with Atlanta Boys and Girls Club. There's also a test with an org on the south side of Chicago, where families who are kind of in these programs, like free and reduced lunch programs, can sign up to get Greenlight for free. And then as the parents and kids come to this curriculum, like monthly kind of Zoom meetings, there's actually money given to the kid. Like, they take the module on investing, and then we put $20 or some dollar amount in the kid's investing account. And that is money for them to learn to invest. And so it's still very pilot program. Like, we don't like to scale things until we understand what it is and how it works. But I think it's the most exciting thing for the next 12 months for us. It is just unbelievable how valuable it can be to these families. And the people are going to say, oh, they're just going to blow the money on junk food or whatever. Yeah, some are and some are not. And no matter what, there's a net positive impact on those families. And then there's other ideas we're testing, like, how can our families like us, like, maybe use the app to make contributions to families who couldn't afford Greenlight, or who want to give their kids this experience and this exposure to investing and saving and earning, where it can really change a life in an exponential kind of way. So super excited.
One of the coolest things about that program is it came from people in our company. It was not me and Johnson going, hey, we're going to do exactly this, and we're going to draw up the whole program and share it with everybody. It came from our team. And that, to me, is pretty special. They did all the work. They did the research. They figured out how it could work. They created the content for the webinars and the different kind of content that was going to be part of the program. Just really kind of proof, I guess, that people really are at Greenlight for the mission. Of course, as soon as we saw it, we were like, yes, we wanted to do this. We just hadn't had a second to even look at it. But it was just wonderful that people on our team made the time and made it happen. and then it was so easy for us to say, yes, let's go. So yeah, we're running the pilots right now to try to figure out, as Johnson said, like what should be in the program, do the webinars work or not really? And, how's this part going? Is the investing part working? Just to kind of fine tune it before we take it national.
And I want to, in our last 5 minutes together, just lean into kind of future advice you would leave for others, and then final thoughts. So just quickly, future of Greenlight, can you give us any secret hint of additional features or things that you're doing from an inertia standpoint to really scale Greenlight in different areas of focus potentially?
Nothing specifically we can talk about, because anytime everything we do gets copied. So we have to be careful what we talk about. But there's just a lot of competitors, some big, some small. But what I could say is that we are going to continue to be focused on meeting the financial needs of families. Like that won't change. And, today we're, helping the kids learn that, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to earn it. There's chores tracking and allowances in there. There's a built-in savings account with savings goal tracking and, parent paid interest to kind of help kids understand the value of saving, because unexpected things happen in life. It's got the giving account, it has the investing account, it obviously has the debit card with the spending controls. But if you look at all of the financial needs of a family, there's more. And so that's where we're headed. We're going to just kind of stay focused on that and try to help them even more than the product does today.
Johnson, anything else?
You're not getting me there. I'm falling for that, Christy.
Absolutely. I would like to stay with you on advice, though, given that you are a serial entrepreneur and you've never had a real job, you said. I totally get it. I would love to hear advice that both you and Tim have as we lean in, kind of giving or taking. What advice would you offer?
Yeah, I would say for the younger, so like I started my first company at Tech, and that was what I came out doing. And it's just so painful to look back and think how much faster I could have gone had I joined a Greenlight instead of trying to figure it out on my own. Like, I think working at a blitz scaling company is so valuable for the 300 people who are seeing it happen at Greenlight. I hope they all stay in Atlanta and they all do this, because when you see how to do it right, it's just a magical experience, right? I won't say it's not that hard, but there is a formula, and it's hard to describe, and it's hard to just tell somebody how to do it. But if you've lived it and you've gone through it, it's really, really awesome. I also think that there was always this kind of weird B2B, B2C discussion in Atlanta. You can't build a consumer company here. You have to, B2B is the only thing. It doesn't matter. It's still just smart people. There's maybe a little bit of a talent gap on consumer marketing, but I don't think we had any disadvantage building a B2C company in Atlanta. None. It was the right product, and it didn't matter. We could have been here or Columbus, Ohio, or San Francisco, right? I think it's just the right product and the right marketing, the right team, all that fit together. It doesn't matter where you are. So I don't want anybody to think Atlanta can't build consumer unicorns. I think it's totally, totally doable. But yeah, that's the main thing, is go do it with somebody else on somebody else's dime. I wish I had done that.
Great advice, Tim.
I will leave you with one word, which is persevere. That is one of my favorite words. And if anyone out there is thinking about being an entrepreneur or is an entrepreneur right now, you have to really persevere. You have to keep at it when no one else really believes it yet. But that doesn't mean it's not true. So I would say keep at it, and don't ever give up if if you're still convinced that you're onto something, just because others don't know about it yet. Every single huge company or success story out there was a nobody at some point, where no one was familiar with it and no one was celebrating it, and we were there not long ago. And so, yeah, I would just say, hang in there. It is a lot of work and it's exhausting, but if you can persevere, there's often a nice other side to it where you really cross through.
So there's the gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, and it's just even the the dream you had, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. For us, it's man, what if we could make the world smart about money, smart about personal finance? That would be so empowering to almost everyone, unless you happen to be a finance professional. And so if you have a dream like that, just keep at it. It's hard, it's rough, and sometimes it takes several years, but persevere.
Well, thank you both for being here. It's so exciting to have you together. And we talked early on about energy, and you guys definitely have something that not a lot of people have together. And so it's fun to have you in our orbit for sure. So I'm going to turn over to Ned as we lead into our breakout rooms for networking. And again, thank you. Pleasure being with you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks, Christy.
Yeah, so guys, what a great discussion. Everyone, I've known Johnson and Tim for a number of years. Couldn't be happier for them and for the entire Greenlight team. It really is a great mission that they're on, and it's fantastic that they've been able to build such a successful business around that mission. So I'll add my thanks to both of you and appreciate obviously your thoughts and insights. Remember, and I don't know, Johnson or Tim, if you're able to stick around for a few minutes, but for the panelists, we do have for the attendees, we do plan to have discussion groups and smaller networking sessions. And so we do ask that you stick around for that, because that's part of the fun. Before we do that, as I mentioned at the start, our next event is June 16th. It's the CXO event, our signature event featuring the C-suite of LeaseQuery. That will be our virtual event. Hopefully we'll start going in person after that. And so you can register on the TAG website. So with that, Ubong, who is our administrator, is going to divide us up into smaller breakout rooms.
Thanks.
Thanks, Johnson.
Thanks, Ned.
And thanks, Tim. And give us an opportunity to network and chat and really kind of learn, take some of the learnings that we got here and kind of see how we can apply that to the businesses that we're working on as well.